Imagine traveling on a floating highway. Well, this might just be the lasting solution to a long-time problem being faced by most motorists and tourists in Western Norway. This is because of their steep, icy mountains and their deep fjords, which, aside from making it difficult terrain to traverse, makes their area famously scenic. With this in mind, join in as we go inside Norway's $47 billion floating highway. The western part of Norway is made up of lots of deep, narrow bodies of water that reach far inland. These narrow bodies of water are called fjords, and they're U-shaped with steep rocks on either of their sides. They were created by glaciers some million years ago. They're beautiful and adorable and also make it difficult to travel along the country's coastline. Currently, the drive from the southern city of Kristiansand to the northern city, Trondheim, takes about 7 ferries to cross the fjords. The trip is about 700 miles long, and with a speed of 30 miles per hour, it'll take 21 hours to complete, coupled with the stress it takes to board from one ferry to another. But these are soon to change as the Norwegian Public Roads Administration, NPRA, has planned a $47 billion infrastructure project to replace the ferries with submerged floating tunnels and ultra-modern suspension bridges. And these are a series of proposed solutions for the European Route E390 coastal highway. Before we continue, don't hesitate to drop your opinion about this $47 billion floating highway project in the comment section, and also subscribe to our channel for amazing content just like this. Without much ado, let's debrief about the European Route 39 before Norway's $47 billion of floating highway. The European Route 39. This is an 1,100-mile-long road that runs from north to south in Norway and Denmark. It runs from Klet, which is just south of Trondheim, to Aalborg, through Bergen, Stavanger, and Kristiansand. The route has the largest number of ferries and lots of connections. In Trondheim, it connects with E6 and E14, while in Aalesund, it connects E136. It also connects E16 in Bergen and E134 in Haugesund. In Kristiansand, it connects to E18 and E45 in Aalborg. The European routes are split by 7 major fjords, which are up to 106 miles in length, a width of 32,740 feet, and a depth of about 4,200 feet. The fjords are currently crossed by the use of ferries, and it costs about $29 to take the 21-hour-long trip from Trondheim to Kristiansand. To solve this inefficiency, the Norwegian Public Road Administration in 2016 introduced the largest mega project in its history. The $47 billion floating highway is continuous and crosses the fjords that are too wide and deep to be crossed with the usual use of traditional structures, like the regular suspension bridge. The floating highway will cut the travel time a bit above half of the original time and will minimize the environmental impact construction of that magnitude may have in the area. According to Nils Erik Anders Rønquist, a professor of structural engineering at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology and consultant for the floating highway project, the structure can last forever if the submerged floating tunnel is done perfectly well and the weight of the structure balances its buoyancy. The floating highway tunnel, though buoyant, aren't actively floating. They are made of pairs of concrete tubes submerged 100 feet under the water surface. The tubes are stabilized by steel cables that are tethered to seabed or pontoons that are 800 feet apart and floating on the surface. To achieve its purpose, Norway's $47 billion floating highways has several links. The first link. The Rogfast Tunnel, or the Rogaland Fixed Link, is an undersea tunnel that is under construction between Randaberg municipalities near the city of Stavanger and Bakken, in the country of Rogaland, Norway. The link crosses Blakenfjord, near the city of Stavanger, and will stretch 17 miles, with a maximum depth of up to 1,286 feet. When the construction is complete, the Rogfast Tunnel will be the longest and deepest undersea road tunnel in the world. The Rogfast Tunnel has ventilation shafts and also a tunnel ramp. The ramp is a spur connection tunnel that is spiral-shaped and 2.3 miles long. The spur connection tunnel links to Kvitsøy Island, which is at the center of the route. The construction of the Rogfast Tunnel was approved in May 2017 and was scheduled to be completed in 2025 or 2026. In 2019, the project was halted due to cost overruns, and a new budget of $2.9 billion was set, which is $900 million more than the initial budget of $2 billion. The Norwegian Public Road Administration's plans of October 2020 have insinuated that the construction of the Rogfast Tunnel will soon resume and completion will stretch on to 2029. The second link. Also known as the Bjornfjord Crossing, The link crosses Fjord. The fjord is 2,112 feet deep, and this is too deep for a traditional structure to transverse. The second link is 62 miles north of the Rogfast Tunnel, and it is a proposed multi-span suspension bridge. The bridge is supposed to sit on floating elements and be anchored to the seabeds with the aid of steel cables. The Fjord crossing is a floating bridge that arches across the entire length of the fjord and sits on floating pontoons, 38 in number, that are 800 feet apart. It has a vertical clearance of 264 feet, which would allow large ships to cross easily. The bridge is 3.4 miles long, twice the length of the current longest floating bridge in Seattle. The third link, 62 miles north of the Fjord crossing, is the Fjord crossing, which crosses the longest and deepest fjords in all of Norway, which is 4,277 feet deep. Because of the nature of the fjord, the third link has 5 proposed structures. The first proposed structure is a single-span suspension bridge that is 2.3 miles long, the longest in the world by 1.2 miles. It has a tower with a height of 1,640 feet, the tallest bridge in the world, and that's 528 feet taller than the Eiffel Tower. The bridge has a vertical clearance of about 211 feet. The second proposed structure is similar to the Fjord crossing. It's a floating bridge that arches vertically and horizontally across the Fjord and will have a vertical clearance that allows for ship passage. The third proposed structure is a fully submerged tunnel, a first of its kind. It is fixed on pontoons and 53 feet below sea level. The fourth proposed structure is a hybrid construction that is 1.6 miles long on a floating bridge and 0.75 miles long of a submerged tunnel near the coast, allowing for the passage of ships. The fifth proposed structure is a cable-stayed suspension bridge and towers sitting on floating elements and anchored to the seabed with steel cables. The fourth link, the Fjord crossing, is 93 miles away from the Fjord crossing. It crosses almost 1,480 feet deep. Fjord. Fourth link is proposed to be a 2.2 mile long suspension bridge, not the regular bridge. This bridge is to have one tower that will hold the suspension bridge to the seabed. It's either this or a submerged floating tunnel that will be anchored to the seabed. The fifth link. This link is 31 miles to the northeast of the third link, the Fjord crossing. It crosses the 1,480 feet deep Fjord. Because of the nature of this fjord, the link is to have a double connection of wonderfully crafted structures. A 10-mile long undersea tunnel will then be connected to a suspension bridge. The bridge will have an actual span of 1 mile and will be Norway's longest suspension bridge and the 6th longest single-span suspension bridge in the world. The towers of the suspension bridge will be 792 feet tall and will have a vertical clearance of 211 feet. Other connections. Norway's $47 billion floating highway does not just have these 5 links. True, the Fjord crossing, the Fjord crossing, the Fjord crossing, the Fjord crossing, and the Rogfast may seem like major links, but there are other minor links, like the tunnel ramp from Rogfast to the island of Kvitsøy. There's also the Nordfjord and Fjord crossing, and each of them is 6,336 feet wide and will most likely feature traditional suspension bridges. With all these in place, the European Route 39 2-lane highway will be upgraded to a 4-lane highway. Benefits. Norway's $47 billion floating highway is not just expensive, but it also serves to bring several benefits to Norwegians and their economy. It has various benefits, and they include: 1. It decreases the times used to travel between Trondheim and Kristiansand by a little above half the original time. 2. It reduces the stress of shuttling from ferries to ferries when traveling through these routes. 3. The floating highway will improve the connectivity of the people around there. 4. Because of the increase in connectivity, the economy will be boosted. 5. The completion of the bridge will bring about tourist attractions and boost tourism, which will also boost the economy of Norway. 6. The presence of a floating highway will bring about an increase in road safety along the Western Highway. 7. Most importantly, because the floating highway will help connect the islands of Kvitsøy and Utrøya to the mainland, it will help them boost their development. Limitations. Norway's $47 billion floating tunnel, with all its beauty, benefits, and error-proof plans, has some limitations and issues. 1. Huge engineering challenge. Since Norway's floating bridge would be tapping into new and untested technology, it will push the limits of structural engineering. 2. It is a bridge, part of which will be submerged and most of which will be floating. There's the ocean to worry about. These structures need to be strong enough to manage the strong impacts of large waves and stronger winds. 3. Most of the undersea tunnels, like the Rogfast tunnels, are so long, and an emergency in one of those would prove to be a major threat. 4. Norway has a reputation for having harsh winter weather. This makes highways difficult to access during the winter. 5. $47 billion is not easy to come by, and with some people thinking there isn't enough traffic in the route to justify the enormous upgrade. These limitations, although a source of concern, have been addressed as engineers, consultants, and universities work to make the construction feasible. The installation of emergency laybys every 0.31 miles inside the floating tunnels. Regarding the winter conditions, Norway is planning to install heaters on the highway to help melt snow during winter. Regarding funding, since Norway's government budget can't come up with $47 billion, loans will be taken, and these loans can be paid off by tolls from the floating highway for the first few decades after completion of the project. Norway's $47 billion floating highway was first introduced in 2016 by the Norwegian Public Road Administration and has since then advanced in the design and strategies. The construction of the highway began in January 2018 with the 1.2 miles part of the Rogfast tunnel. In January 2019, the first excavation started, and the second excavation ended in June of the same year. However, in October the same year, 2019, the construction was halted over budget controversies. In November 2020, an additional $900 million was added to the original budget of $2 billion for the Rogfast construction, and it is hoped to begin soon. Norway's $47 billion floating highway was originally scheduled to be completed in 2026, but it was shifted to 2029, and when completed will stretch the area across the region's grand fjords. What do you think about this? Will Norway's $47 billion floating highway be a success or not? Don't forget to tell us in the comment section what you think. If you love this content, subscribe and check out our other videos that are coming up on the screen right now. Till next time.